and welcome to the He Doesn't Want It podcast, sponsored by Learners Ross Driving School and Drumbo Park Racecourse. Today I'm here with Davy McAlinden, who is the current first team manager at Shankill United. Davy, thanks very much for coming on. How are you keeping, mate?
I'm very well, Gary. Thanks for having me. Thanks.
Well, I really appreciate, like I said, you coming on and giving up your time. You are managing Shankill United. Was this your first season with the club? Yeah.
It was. We took over early September, I think, or mid-September. Mark Picking was the manager then, and the club approached me to come in, and so I think it was the 9th or something of September. Maybe it was our first game away to Derryaki, which we lost. So since then, up until obviously the game stopped, myself with Mark Clegg, who's been at Shankill for a long time, Ram McMinn, who's been at Shankill for a long time, and Alan Wright, who looks after the goalkeepers, have worked together.
So you come in pretty much, well, taking away the August games, you've been there most of the season, but you did miss obviously a good few league games at the start. When you come in, do you feel that there has been a change in your fortunes at the team? Do you believe that you have improved the performances of players and the results have improved since then?
Whenever we first came in, it was a case of, I think it's fair to say that the club were worried about relegation and dropping out of the Premier Division. So I mean, with the Shankill had played 7 or 8 games already in the league. You know, in the amateur league, that's a fair few, I think. So the week before we took over, Rathfriland beat the boys or beat Shankill at that time 7-0 or something, 6 or 7-0. And since myself and the boys have came in and took over, I think we've been competitive in every single game, and we've improved. We brought players in, obviously, but we also give the lads who was already there an opportunity to stay at the club, and some have done really, really well, and some have left. So I think it's without doubt we've improved, both on the pitch, off the pitch, and certainly in results.
So you were sitting 7th with 5 games left before the season was ended there.
Is that what it was? 7th? We took over and we were I think with 3 points, and we were 13th out of 14. So that's what the club were concerned about, relegation, and we were, as I say, we're very, really competitive every week, and had some really good results against some of the top sides, and we improved loads, to be honest.
Yeah, in terms of the cup competitions, how do you feel you've fared in the cup competitions this season?
The big one for us obviously was being drawn away to Crumlin Star. I know Chew very well, and they've obviously been the top amateur league side for countless years. So we went there and beat them, which was good, which was a massive result for us. Unfortunately, I'll probably be biased in saying this, but we were beat by Balnahinch in the semi-final, and we were the better side, and they went on to win it, against Rathfriland. So we done really well in that, and
that was the Border Cup, yeah.
That was the Border, yeah. Sorry, I thought I said that. And I can't remember being in any of the other ones really. The Border was the standout one for me, and as I say, on another night would have been in the final if we'd have took our chances. But Balnahinch went on and won it. So,
in terms of next season, what would be your aims next season? Will it be a bit of silverware with a cup, or would it be to try and get a wee bit higher in the league? You can see that at the moment the standards being set by Crumlin Star and East Belfast, and then this season the Balnahinch pushing really hard as well. There seems to be they're almost pulling away from the pack. Would it be a big aim to try and get closer to them next season?
I think the good thing for us has been, Gary, that the fact that we have been competitive in every single game. So whenever we've played Crumlin Star, we played East Belfast, we've played Balnahinch, and we've been competitive, and beat 2 out of the 3 of them. Only haven't played East Belfast early when we took over. So we probably didn't get a real true reflection of the current squad against East Belfast, so that would have been interesting. But I think we have to strive to be successful, and we have the personnel, I believe, to be doing that. But the big stickler for us is, and Balnahinch did very, very well, is I think a couple of your boys that you've done these with have touched on it, is our club struggles at times with commitment levels from players.
Yeah.
You can't be too overcritical, because people have outside things that get in the way, especially at amateur league level, that I've found. But the clubs that have been more successful have generally 90% of the time, 95% of the time, have the same makeup of team week in, week out, and that makes a hell of a difference as far as I can see. And until we improve on that side, then we'll not get close to those sides. But if we had a full season where players were committed all of the time, and not all, we have players like every club probably who don't miss Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, just religiously. Their commitment levels are through the roof. And then on the flip side of that, we have certain players who have all the ability in the world, but miss a Saturday game at short notice, or don't train all week at short notice, or it's just a little bit of
booking our weekend away.
That's we've all been there, haven't we? It's like, yeah. So that's the commitment level. If we had a proper commitment level, I think would be there or thereabouts, to be perfectly honest.
Has that been a bit of a culture shock for you coming down to the amateur league to see that?
It was before I took the job. I obviously spoke to a lot of people in relation to the amateur league and what they expect. And I went in with my eyes open. I expected it, because this is things that happen. Don't be surprised if this happens. So probably the amount of things has surprised me a little bit. And the real short notice, like, I don't know about you, but growing up, I'd have dreaded telling my manager that I wasn't available, even on a Tuesday training night, never mind on a Saturday game time. It just wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
But people just seem to let it. It's can't make sorry about that, and it's a given. So we're trying to change that little culture, and I think if we do that, we've improved that a lot, to be fair, towards the end. And results help that. When we're on a good run of results, people are chomping to be involved, and that makes a hell of a difference. So, but was it a shock? A little bit, but I was expecting it, because I'd looked into it, spoke to the right people. So, as I say, I went in with my eyes open to it.
Yeah, sometimes the frustration is it's the nonchalance of players, that you can tell the players who feel genuinely as if it's hard for them to tell you that they can't make a game or can't make training.
Yeah.
And then you get the boys who'll walk past you as you're walking out of training a Thursday night going, "Oh yeah, I can't make Saturday, by the way." Or, "Oh, we text, can't make Saturday, no excuse."
Yeah,
or you turn up at training and half your squad's not there, and you don't even get a text to why they're not training.
Yeah. To be fair, we went in, we asked them, for commitment levels, and generally it has been good. I'm probably doing them a little bit of disservice, but there is. I mean, we went one game and we were having to leave two players out. I think with 16 on the Friday night when I went to bed, and when I woke up and got to the game, I think we were struggling to make 11. So to have 5 or 6 players dropping out at such short notice is unacceptable, probably at any level. That's what we've had to overcome. But generally, like 90% of the time, the boys have been super in relation to that. But it's getting the same people available week in, week out, and training, so that you can prepare to beat the top teams. That's the difference, and until we do that, until we get that, we'll not challenge for anything, to be honest.
The big difference next season as well for yourselves will be that you'll hopefully get a pre-season this year, if we're able to.
When will that take place?
Exactly. If thinking in a positive way, we'll get a pre-season. We'll be able to start the season. And then, of course, last season you missed the start of the year, and you come into a team who had already played a certain amount of games in the league, and then the expectations were, let's try and push them up the table, where
Yeah.
you're going to be able to get the opportunity to start in 0 points, the same as everybody else, and it'll give you a different way of looking at things, you think?
No, certainly it will, and we'll have different aims then when the season starts, and the league game whenever it comes around again. We'll certainly have different aspirations as we did this year, and that was maybe partly my fault in relation to your previous question. And it was a case of, right, let's claim as high as we can, but we know, the singular biggest thing that we have to focus on is not being involved in a relegation scrap. Yeah. So when you achieve that goal, people maybe take their eye off the ball a little bit, and that's partly my responsibility as well, and setting that goal when we first went in. So, but when you, as you say, when you have a clean slate, you're on 0 played and 0 points, you can set different targets. We'll certainly be doing that.
Yeah, and then hopefully if we're given the pre-season as well, you can get a bit of time with no pressure of having to worry about results, to be able to work with the players more, and then you and your coaching staff can implement your thoughts and processes in as well.
Yeah, well, to be fair, we've managed to do that since we came in. So, we'll keep working at that, and we'll keep progressing that. So, yeah, it'll be good, as you say, to start on an even keel with everybody else, and it'll give us a real true reflection of, is my belief in the boys that's there misplaced, or am I right in thinking, we have as good a side here when we have everyone available as anyone that we've played so far. That's my belief.
Yeah, what I want to do now, Davy, is I want to take everybody way back to the start of your career. Probably say way back, I made it sound a lot older than what you are. Sorry, mate. But bring us back to it's management does that to you, so it is. Bring us back to the start of your playing career. Where did it all begin? For anybody watching or listening, let us know what clubs you played for and length of time at the clubs.
How long have you got, guy? So whenever I was 16, 17, 16 it would have been, I went to the Milk Cup with County Antrim, and the manager there was Joe McCall, and he was reserve team manager at Ballymena, and he took maybe 5 or 6 of us to Ballymena. We enjoyed working with Joe at the Milk Cup so much, we went and signed at Ballymena. And I broke through into the first team when I was 17 and played a couple of games under, not a couple of games. I played under Kenny Shields when he was there.
Yeah.
Sort of good time with Kenny, and really enjoyed Ballymena. Left there and went to Crusaders. Had a difficult year. Crusaders, left and joined Glenavon under Tommy Kincaid. Where ironically we went back. We were in the what would have been the first division or championship then. We got involved in the playoff relegation where we got promoted and relegated Crusaders, which was a touch of fate. Left Glenavon when they changed manager. Paul Malone came in. And I left, and Colin Malone came in, not Paul. And I left and joined Cliftonville. Were interested, and then they got rid of Jimmy Brown, and when he came in he was happy to let me go, so I ended up at Cliftonville for 3 years and a bit. And then I done my knee and had a bit of a difficult time. Decided I was going to leave, went to the distillery again, back to Jimmy Brown as a manager, then brought me to the distillery. He got the sack. They brought Tommy Wright in, played for a little bit, and then ended up at Carrick. We got promoted at Carrick, and then Stevie Small got the sack in the Premier League at Carrick, and then I managed to get a move back to Cliftonville at that stage under Brezzy. But at that stage, I was seeing out a career really, despite only being 27 or 28. My knee was giving me too much bother, and I couldn't get as fit as I should have done, and I was carrying too much weight. I ended up leaving Cliftonville at the end of the season and joining Ards, and played only until the end of November, where I done my knee again, and subsequently retired then after that.
In terms of your playing career, it ended then before your 30s. You turned 30 then. So,
Yeah.
your knee injury, you said you had a couple of knee injuries. What was it
Yeah.
exactly done to your knee?
When I was at the Reds the first time, I think we were playing against Donegal Celtic at Celtic Park, and just went ahead of the ball and came down, and my knee gave way, and it ended up part of it, the bone had chipped off the back of my kneecap, so my kneecap had sort of a little bit of broken off,
Yeah.
and I needed to go in and get that removed and things all tidied up, and so I have a little bit of a hole in my kneecap now. It was always going to cause me problems with rubbing within the knee, and it never really went away after that, to be honest.
Yeah.
Then when I was at Ards, I done my knee again and I would have needed another tidy up to go in and get my cartilage and stuff repaired. So I went and spoke to, God rest him, Benny Lynch, who's at Cliftonville, still the physio, and I spoke to him. It was always a running joke between me and him that he retired me, even though he didn't really. And I always, he just warned me really that, you know, if I had, because the first stop was so big, if it went in and done it on the same knee again, I might struggle a little bit in later life with mobility. So at that stage, I'd had 13 decent seasons in the Irish League, and to be honest, I was taking my eye off the ball, and I was ready to go. I'd never really had a proper injury up to then. So, yeah. So Benny retired me, even though, as I say, even though he didn't. We always joked about that, sadly, before he passed away.
In terms of your career, you did have a few clubs, and most of the time, it's been nicer. Most of the time, it's probably due to the manager merry-go-round that happens. Do you think, where maybe a new manager comes in that didn't fancy you, or it was a certain manager brought you in, and when they left, you felt that you would maybe move on, the pastures new, or?
It was just a clatter of reasons, you know. It was just leaving Ballymena was just stupidity because I was so young. You never left there. Crusaders, I don't know, I just didn't play at Crusaders too often. Well, played often enough, but didn't play well often enough. Glenavon had done okay. Getting promoted and stuff was good. We had a decent start to the Premier season, and then nearly got relegated because we hardly won a game. Cliftonville was just, things had run its course at the time, and probably wasn't getting on with the manager brilliantly. The Whites changed a manager, Carrick changed a manager, and by the time I went back to Cliftonville, I knew in my head that my heart wasn't completely in it the way it always was. So, finishing off in Ards, I went in and played for Niall until, as I say, I hurt my knee a second time. So there was numerous reasons. Some my fault, some managerial change, some just, that's the way football goes.
Yeah. Is there any regrets apart from, you said the Ballymena one, leaving there was a regret? Was there any other regrets you have about your playing career?
Wasn't really a regret. I mean, things wouldn't have worked out the way they did if it hadn't have made that move, you know.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, you can't, as a 17-year-old, you don't think the same way as a 30-year-old. So, you know, you're young, you're naive, you want to play all the time, even though that's never going to happen. You get a little taste of it, and I was probably a little bit naive leaving, especially when there's such a good manager in Kenny Shields, who was helping me endlessly. But Crusaders wanted me at that stage, and it's always nice to feel wanted, and sometimes you just move on. So
yeah,
listen, it's just, you know, it's just a clatter of different reasons. Probably the one where I should have tried to stay involved and tried to get fit again was whenever I could have went back to Glenville before I joined Ards. Again, I was just, I probably wouldn't have played that much. That was the year they won the league then.
Yeah.
They brought Mark Smith in, who was an unbelievable signing, and Jimmy McGovern played beside him. So, but until then, I didn't. I'd went to the coach at the Milk Cup.
Yeah.
So it wasn't for doing pre-season. So that tells you where my attitude was at that stage. And I seen a path away from playing, to be honest. I was looking to move into do a little bit of coaching, and my knee just was hindering me so much that although I was never any type of athlete, I always had to be fit enough to stay with the better players, and my body wasn't allowing me to do that. So it was an easy choice.
Yeah, you went into senior football very young at 17. Do you think that might have been a factor in maybe your body starting to catch up with you?
Maybe, and as I say, I never really had any bad injuries throughout my career. Um, and people sometimes don't break through to their 21 or 22, whereas I was
Yeah,
playing at 17, retired at 28, I think it was. Um, that was only, what was that, 11 years? I think I said 13. So that was 11 years.
yeah,
Um, so people might not break through to their 21, 22 and finish at 33, and people think that that's the same amount of years, you know. So,
yeah,
you know, I was happy enough with it. I was happy to retire at the time. I haven't regretted retiring at the time. I don't have any regrets about doing it. As I say, probably looking back, if you want to pick holes in it, the time at Clinville, I would have worked harder, but, you know, and just stayed fit and played a bit part. But would you be happy with that? Probably not. You don't know.
yeah.
And um, they went on to win the league, which was great. I ended up back that season. Michael Press brought me back in to help with the reserve. So I was coaching there. I was doing what I wanted to do at that stage. So I had no regrets about finishing.
And when you finished, did you go straight into coaching, or did you take a period of time out of the game?
Took a little bit of a break, not very long. Michael was on the phone. Me and Michael were quite close. He's a good man, and he knew that what I wanted to do. You know,
Yeah,
he was always aware of what I wanted to do, and he phoned me and asked me would I come in and help, and you know, was only too happy to do that because that's where I wanted my path to sort of lead to. So I went in there and helped him for I don't know how long, not very long, maybe 6 months, and then he ended up getting a phone call from Lauren and one of managing there.
yeah. And when you went to Larne, how long was it you were at Larne then?
I think I was there for nearly close to 4 seasons. I think it was,
Yeah,
and it was great. I loved everything about the club. Archie Smith was a brilliant chairman. Kept the club afloat, along with a guy called Mervyn Mackay. They weren't paying any sort of money. It was a couple of pound travelling expenses, um, for boys, and I mean a couple of pound. Like, it wasn't
yeah,
there wasn't anything to compete with. But we through different little ways and means we were able to bring players in, and looking back, we had some good sides, you know, and we nearly got into the playoff a couple of the years, and we had a little squeak of promotion, which was great for us because we shouldn't have been anywhere close to it, to be honest, with the budget that we had in comparison to others. It was just like we didn't have two to eat or rub together.
yeah. And how did it end for you at Larne then?
I just thought it had run its course,
Uh-huh.
um, and I just didn't see anything changing. There's going to be the same season. The following season, we were going to be thereabouts, but we just there was teams in the division that had a couple of pound to spend that were always going to get the better players, or not all the better players, but players who could make a difference, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And we always lacked just that little bit of cutting edge, or extra quality, maybe two or three players. We were always running, and I just get tired of the same. I knew the following season was going to be the same.
Yeah,
Uh, in hindsight, again, then Tiernan Lynch took over and they tried like a full-time thing with younger kids, and then subsequently Kenny Bruce came in and invested in the club, which is amazing for them. Again, you don't know if that would have happened if I was still there, but it's just brilliant to see them thriving. So again, um, I'm so happy for people like Archie Smith that this has happened to them.
yeah. Because you spent long enough there, so it's good to see that you're not saying, "I wish I'd have held on longer. That could have been me managing that team and getting all the money."
Oh,
But you're just happy to see the club do well, even though you're no
I'm
longer
happy for
part of it.
the good people who kept that club going whenever there was very few coming through the gates.
Mm.
You know, they're the people that I'm so happy. I'm not happy for the rest of the town or whatever, but
Yeah,
it's those people who deserve it the most for me, because they put, sweat and tears into that club when no one wanted to know. And it was remarkable how they kept the doors open, to be honest. Um, so yeah, no, it's super. Don't get me wrong. Everybody, as a football manager, you would love to be in the position that Tiernan's in. He's got remarkable resources and facilities now, and fair play to him. And he's doing a brilliant job. So it's great to see. It's great to see.
yeah. It's something as well that you forget that at senior level there is still a lot of people behind the scenes who do so much work for the club, and then you think at
Yeah,
senior level when you're playing at amateur level or coaching at amateur level that they have mountains of money compared to what you have, but you're
yeah.
saying when you're at Larne it's shoestring budget most of the time, and you're trying to your best to try and get the club afloat, keep the club afloat, but also then try and be successful.
I don't know if I'm talking out of school or not, but even if when I was Larne manager, and even when I was Carrick manager in the Premier League, so when I took on over Carrick, we were Premier League club, and certain players that I was approaching and tried to sign were being paid more money at amateur league clubs than I could offer them in the Premier League with Carrick.
Yeah, yeah. I
So
think that's been something.
that's the difficulty.
Yeah, that's been something which is kind of we all know, but it's never
Yeah,
really spoke
it's not
about too
addressed.
much. It's yeah, it's not addressed enough, and it probably should be addressed by the
Yeah,
powers that be.
yeah, and again that makes it difficult in the amateur league, and I'm not complaining about it, but it does happen. People that say that it doesn't happen, I don't know understand why they hate against that. Us at Shankill United, no players get paid any money. We all pay, even I pay dues,
Yeah,
and we pay like find the joker and try and help a club. But there is clubs in the amateur league that pay money, um, and that's the bottom line. So as I say, going back to your question, yeah, it is difficult working on a shoestring budget, and it's even more difficult when you think that there's players even in the amateur league who can make your club better. You're giving them the opportunity to play in the Irish League, and can't get them because an amateur league club is giving them more money. It's strange.
yeah, it is strange. It's something that we all kind of know, like I said, and it's something that's never really addressed. But it's also something that players should be addressing themselves. That where is their ambition level?
That's it.
What do they want to do? Do they want to just take and in some ways it's for in some situations it's hard to criticize because if you're getting it and you need it,
Yeah.
pray for your family, that's fair enough.
Hmm.
But for other players, it is a case of they're just not challenging themselves to push that high level.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. There's opportunity out there for people to, especially now in the Irish League, more so than I've ever known, to earn decent enough money, in the professional game or as a professional contracted player here, and that's different from a full time player. Um, People get paid very, very well now in the Irish League, and if you can make that step up and prove that you're good enough to do that, you can provide, as you say, for you can earn decent enough money. So, as a young player, if young players come to me, and that's one thing that I've said to our players, um, if probably to the detriment of me, but if we can push them on, or if they think that I can help them in some way to push on and use Shankill as a springboard, then I am more than happy for me to do that. We've had two or three this year who we've tried to push on, and we'll probably go and do pre-seasons with Championship and Premier League clubs, because I think that's the right thing to do. I think the amateur league should be feeding into the Irish League and giving people opportunity to make a better career for themselves. But that's only if the players want to, and some players just don't. Some players want to play with their mates, and that's fine too. It's just whatever your ambition is. Um, so, but we're certainly trying to push people on if they want it, and if they don't, and they're happy. Some people want happiness to be the reason that they play. They enjoy it, and we have players like that too who don't want to move on anywhere. They're really enjoying being part of what we're trying to do, and that's that's what their release is.
Yeah.
They just want to be happy playing. So there's no right or wrong, as you say. It's just whatever your ambition is. You should certainly follow it. For me,
What I find as well is if you're honest enough with players and players think that you're actually trying to push them on, they're grateful for you, because then if it doesn't work out, they'll come back to you. If they feel you've held them back and you keep holding them back and they leave anyway, if it doesn't work out, you're never seeing that player again. So you holding them back is a detriment to yourself and a club in the long run.
and clubs can't really hold them back in the amateur league anyway. So really, the player decides at the end of the day. Do you want to go or do you want to stay? They're all on amateur contracts or amateur registrations. And if they really want to go and try and have a go somewhere, if the interest is there, then then they hold the power. So, but some players, as I say, don't, and they just want to enjoy playing with people they're familiar with, and once they find that enjoyment, then they'll be in place for a different reason, I suppose.
Yeah, I think as coaches in amateur league clubs, and I know Shankill United, there's intermediate club 4 or 5 divisions above my own team. Forward, we're 2A. What you've got to find as well when you're trying to build a squad is players who are happy to play with a good group of people. May not be friends yet, but you're trying to bring players into an environment which they're happy with. But you do find sometimes that you're banging your head against a brick wall, because even at my level, I get asked at times when I'm asking players, do you fancy coming down and giving it a go? Oh, have you got any money? What are you offering?
I know. It's strange, isn't it?
And I'm thinking you're not even gonna make my team better. I'm asking you to come in as a squad player in second division football, and you're telling me you want a couple of quid. It's a hard thing to compete against at times, really.
The biggest thing that I can't understand is when you're trying to sign a local player or someone who's quite local to you. And we've tried to do that. I mean, all our players are sort of locally around the club.
Yeah.
We've done that intentionally because we want people to feel as if they have an affiliation with the club. I think that's the right thing for us to do. And I make no apologies for that. But it's the ones in and around the club who are maybe from the area. Crumlin Star have it down to a T. They do it brilliantly, and they've been so successful with it. But it's the ones that I can't understand who travel 20, 30 mile to training and 20, 30 mile back for and they're saying, well, I know, but I'm being paid £20.
Yeah,
I
trip
can't
bachelor
understand.
back.
and plus some, and the
Yeah.
time that you're losing. I can't understand that. I don't know if it's an ego thing where they want to run around telling their mates that they're actually paid to play in the amateur league. I don't know, but I don't know about you, Gary, but 20 quid on a Saturday doesn't last very long these days.
No,
So
no.
I'll never understand that logic. I'll never understand it.
Yeah, at amateur league level, it has to be about being together with a group of players you feel you have a bond with, coaching team you feel you have a bond with, and you're trying to do something great together, trying to push on together. Once you have players there who are only there for either a kickabout on a Saturday, or their mentality is that they're not worried about the club they're playing for in general, then it's very hard to get that. Like you say, Crumlin Star have it down to a T where they have the togetherness, which it's probably, you can be as good a coach as you want to be, but it's the hardest thing to create at times to get that bond.
Yeah, and that's what we work really hard on. Sorry, we've struggled with numbers at times, but people have left the club who and maybe wanted to come back, and we didn't feel it was the right. We could have signed other players who would have boosted the numbers. But we didn't see them as the right type of people.
Yeah.
And I think the club find that a little bit strange at times because we're picking and choosing, whereas maybe before it was like, he wants to sign him.
Mm-hmm.
And we're trying to get away from that a little bit. And I don't know if that, again, looking further in the line, will that be to my detriment? I don't know, it might. But I feel that we've created now since September a really, really strong group of players who really enjoy being around each other and enjoy being in each other's company and enjoy playing together, have that little bond that they've grown together this season since we came in. And it only takes maybe one or two to dismantle that. And I'm really guarded against doing that. So as well as signing good players, we're trying to bring in good people as well. So that's certainly what our ethos has been since we went in, and I don't want to step away from that either. But as
Yeah,
difficult as it is to get players at times.
yeah, it's important as well when you get players that you keep them, but you're only going to keep them if they come into an environment where they're going to feel that
Yeah,
this is the type of environment I want to be in. These players are playing together. There's a good bond here. There's a good connection between the players and the coaches, and that's the one thing that then those players will come in and know I can't really step out of lane here because if the manager, the coach doesn't pull me, then the teammates are going to.
yeah, yeah. I think that's important. And as I say, you're probably looking at Crone Star as the benchmark at doing that. You know, and again, I'll go back to what we spoke about earlier on. They seem to have a consistent 14 players to play
Mm-hmm.
every week for the last goodness knows how many years. You
Yeah,
know, and certain players have moved on, but they've then got players in who are a regular in the side, and it's making a massive difference to them.
yeah. Some of our boys, the likes of Joe McNeil. Joe McNeil's been there from he was a kid. He did go away for a period of time and
He
play
did, yeah.
at our clubs, and he did push himself on, but he's come back to his roots, and that's the type of players that's braided their success. They've been there from the start, pushed
Yeah.
themselves the whole way through the amateur league. What I want to do now, Davy, is work on to just a couple of questions I'd like to ask you about your career. So first of all, the best player you've played with.
Oh, best player I've played with. I'll probably say two. When I was growing up, or sorry, when I was starting off and I moved to Crusaders as a centre half, Jeff Spears was by far and away the best centre half I played with at Crusaders. He had won leagues and medals and cups and Irish cups and everything under the sun with Linfield. He
Yeah,
captained some great sides. To play alongside him was an honour for me, uh, because I grew up sort of watching him as well. You know, when he was in the twilight of his career, he was come to the end. He was playing every week with hernias and limbs hanging off, it seemed. But he was
yeah,
just the best player on the pitch by an absolute country mile, and I think it's fair to say, poor Crusaders team.
yeah,
And he was carrying me beside him. So um, he was just a man mountain as a centre half. And he was the most aggressive probably that I've played beside, but he was great. He was a fantastic, funny story about him. I was playing with him one day, and Jeff came out and done his own warm up because he was kicking on a wee bit.
yeah.
So he shredded past me, and he stopped and he asked me, what are you doing? And I was like, what are you talking about? He says, what have you got on your feet? I says, football. He's like, this deathly stare. And he said, are they moldies you're wearing? Like the ground, it was like an April afternoon, or it was like weather like now. The ground was hard as a rock. And I was like, yeah, they're moles, yeah. And he says, you don't wear moles when you're playing beside me. And I thought he was joking, so I laughed. He made me go into the change room and put my studs on. So he did. And I can't remember who it was against, but that's a true story. He made me go into the change room, put my studs on, and I swear to God, it was like playing on concrete.
That's a
So
proper old school footballer,
you
Irish.
don't go to war beside me with moldies on, son.
I'm sure that was a good learning experience as well. Playing alongside him, you were young then as well. It helped you
It
probably
was,
develop as a
and do you know
player.
what? He looked after me as well. Me and him had a good relationship when I went in. He tried to point me in the right direction. He really looked after me. I know things didn't work out there quite well, but Jeff was great with me, and yeah, every now and again I'll still pick the phone up to him to see how he is,
Yeah,
and yeah, he's a good man. Probably the other one that I should mention is George McMullen,
yeah,
who was at Plimville, was played at right back, left back, sweeper, goalkeeper, right wing, centre forward, number 10, left wing, anywhere you want. And George was still 9 and 10 out of 10 every week. He was a phenomenal footballer, and someone who played in Clinville teams who nearly got relegated and then ended up captaining and winning the league. It was remarkable, but he was always at the same level. In his early days, he didn't get the recognition he deserved, but he
yeah,
was through like right and left foot in the Irish League. You don't see very often anymore. But either side, George could whip free kicks, shots off, made tackles both sides, tenacious in the air, horrible little fella. But an absolute gentleman off the pitch. And so he was probably the best all-round footballer that I've played with.
Yeah, I think a biggest testament to Jordy is you're the second person I've had on the podcast that Kieran Colville on before, and he said the same thing about Jordy. Players who played with him and say how good he is, it's always the testament to how good a player actually was. You don't maybe hear him get the recognition elsewhere in the media with fans, but the players who played alongside him know exactly how good they were.
But the biggest compliment George probably ever got was George could have moved to Linfield and Glentoran. I don't know if everyone knows that. I mean, he could have moved. Um, but he was a Glenville man and he stayed true to his club and it paid off for him in the end, you know. Yeah. So, but George was a phenomenal footballer and he's still kicking about with Crewe now.
Yeah, he's still doing it all right, so he is. Yeah. In terms of your career, what would be your best moment you've had in your career?
Best being part of the Glenville team that was the first Glenville team ever to win in Europe. We went out to Latvia after drawing 1-1 at Windsor Park. Kieran O'Connor scored a goal, I think it was the equaliser. It was 1-1 anyway. Kieran scored and we went out to Latvia given no chance and in absolute soaring heat. We beat a Latvian side 1-0. Mark Holland scored the winner. Mm-hmm. So that was without easily my best moment in football. Seeing a club legend like Freddie Jardine in tears at an age where he'd probably seen everything. He had seen Glenville win the league. He'd been around for what felt like 100 years, God rest him. Yeah. And being close to him so personally, seeing him in tears and having a little hug with him after winning in Latvia was definitely the highlight of my career.
You can actually see now it was very rare that teams in the Premiership won European games. You can see the standard raising now. Yeah, the standard must be definitely raising if that's what's happening.
Yeah, and because Glenville won then, I think a couple of years after, Big Decky and Ian Donaghy would have been there at the time, and George and Tull probably all played on that side, and they went out and beat someone. It was a Swedish side or something maybe, but they'd done it again after, and Linfield have done it in recent years, and so it's the results are getting better, whereas in days gone by it was like almost unheard of an Irish League club winning in Europe.
Yeah, personally I think we're only a couple of years away from getting an Irish Premiership team in the Europa League group stages. I think it's not that far away.
You might be right. I think if they can somehow make the full-time thing work here, and I think it has obstacles and it's going to be really difficult. But if they can do that and they get the right infrastructures in place, and I think you might be onto something. But it's really, really difficult to get to that stages. But I mean, Shamrock Rovers did it a few years ago, didn't they?
True.
So you might be right, but I think a few things need put in our favour again for that to happen. But certainly, I wouldn't rule it out.
Yeah. In terms of your career, what would be your worst moment you've had in football?
In football, being relegated with Carrick as manager was sickening. Took me a long time to get over that. Hurt because although Newry deserved it over the two legs, certain things didn't go in our favour. It was a real struggle over the two legs. We were so in control. We made an error when we were like 2 or 3-1 up or 3-0 up or something. One of the boys makes an error and the whole pendulum swings. And it was just that was sickening. It hurt me bad, that one, and took me a while to recover from that. That was a hard one to take.
Yeah. We're now going to move on to. Sorry, I get a wee bit sucker.
You're all right.
We're now going to move on to a couple of the questions that we got on Twitter. I think a couple of your mates might have hijacked these questions, sort of made it.
They probably I don't have many mates, Gary, so you should probably
So
pick them up.
you're frenemies. I'll start with a genuine question we got in from Tommy Phillips. Who asked, "Do you see that there's a big level of that there's a big difference in a level of fitness in amateur league compared to the Premiership or the Championship? And also, do you see Shankill United becoming a force in the amateur league?"
First question is, I think it's obvious that when players are being paid on a weekly basis in the Irish League, you have to go to training Tuesday and Thursday. It's a job almost. You're always available on a Saturday. I mean, you don't miss unless you're left out, and you're training. Now most of the teams will train 3 times a week, or the full-time lads will train 5. So the fitness levels are going to be on a different level. That's an easy one. But again, without being too critical of our lads, our commitment levels still need to be, even though they're not getting paid and they're paying to play, you still have a level of pride within yourself that gets you there on a Tuesday and Thursday. And on a Saturday. So I still think we can work on that. But yeah, there's obviously a difference in the Irish League in terms of fitness because of the reasons as I've just said there. Second, are Shankill going to be a force? That's certainly the goal. I don't think there's any point in going and saying we're happy to stay in the Premier Division every year. I think we've showed in the last 3 or 4 months since we took over there before it stopped, that we're capable of mixing it with the top teams who are winning the leagues and the cups every year. So as I say, I don't want to harp on about it and say it again, but if we can get a level of commitment from our players and maybe bring 1 or 2 in that are going to help the squad, I don't think we'll be far away at all, to be honest. And once it's like once you start winning, then it breeds success, and hopefully the club builds on that. It would be brilliant to bring something back to the Hammer for us to celebrate. That would please me no end, as I'm sure it would the boys who've been there for a long time.
Definitely, yeah. This question here was really interested in. Stevie Small asked about, can you tell us about the time that a washing machine was brought into your contract negotiations?
Yeah, Smalley was the manager. I'm not naming the chairman. But when we were at Carrick and Carrick got promoted. Myself, Paul Heatley, Anto Lagan, Tony Anderson, Liam Hogan played in that side. We were a decent enough bunch, and at the time Stevie had made me captain of the club, so we'd obviously got promoted. And when I went in to renegotiate, we were only on over 1-year contracts then, and we went in to renegotiate the club. I may as well tell you the whole story. I was on a certain amount of pound, and the chairman offered me the same money but wanted me to be taxed on it. So it was basically taking a reduction, even though I got promoted. And I tried to explain that to him, and I don't think it was getting in. So he said, well, why don't we put something in place where you get X, I think we just had Olivia, my little girl or something anyway, and he's like, are you struggling for anything? Like, do you need, could we give you a wash machine? And I was looking at Smalley, and Smalley was looking at me going, I was thinking, is this a wind up, or is Jeremy Beattie going to jump out from behind the table or something? But yeah, true story. Smalley was right. It was probably the most bizarre contract negotiations I've ever been in, but couldn't have been that bizarre because they gave me what I wanted in the end, and we ended up staying. So.
Did you take the wash machine as well? Did you?
I didn't need a wash machine at that stage, but I don't know. They must have had a couple of spare out the back of their house or something.
He's looking to sell one on. Darren Sefton has asked about, do you still have your brown loafers? Your brown shoes?
Oh, he's that's one of the boys we go away with in the summers coaching. He's from Liverpool, so they always on nights out they used to have these little slip-on brown, and they always called them a wedding shoe. So they were. That's what. It's actually his name's actually David Flynn.
Right.
So Flinny's always honest at me about those. So yeah, them boys we can get any time in the Tuesday night in Empire. They're not that funny, to be honest.
The last one then, Mark Smith was asked. Well, I think this one's actually a bit harsh because I've seen you in this video, but he says, "Do you ever smile?" But I've seen you smiling tonight. That's made you smile as well.
After me giving them compliments earlier
I
on
know.
as well.
I should have told you that before.
You should have made me aware of that. I actually knew that what he had wrote underneath. I'd read it the other day. Or actually, I tell a lie. Someone screenshotted it and sent me it, and I just sent them a message calling him a slobber, and he just sent me laughing faces back. So I knew he had said that, but I didn't know you'd asked me about it. But no, I think people have me down as someone who is a bit grumpy, but I'm the only person that doesn't believe that, maybe. But I think I might be.
The last one, Paddy Byrne has messaged and said, did you start a trend of coaches wearing football boots which are not black? He says you have he showed me a picture. I'll show you it here. He sent me a picture of you and you're wearing the boots. The boots, to be honest, that I've been coaching a long time myself, but I wouldn't be caught wearing these ones. They're white Adidas boots they look like a spider's web.
He's lying. I've never wore any boots but black. He's telling lies.
There we go. There's them ones there.
They're not on me, them. He's telling lies.
Well, he did say you must have.
He's done me up a kipper with them. I don't know what he's been at.
Is that not you or no?
What is, I don't know what that is. The boy, I don't know what that was on.
With these spider boots.
That was one of our trips away to Norway when we coached every year in Norway. What a name drop for Jamie Carragher.
Yeah.
And Paddy would have been on them, same as Flinny, who's asked about the loafers. I don't know. Maybe that was we used to play all games and stuff after we coached during the day, and I might have lost a forfeit or something. So that might have been.
I've seen he sent me pictures as well. He said you've started a trend because he sent me pictures of John Terry wearing white boots at to start with, say, Dean Smith, and a pair of Frank Lampard's wearing a pair of purple boots, I think, at Chelsea training. So you've definitely started a trend.
I'm going to hazard a guess here, Gary, but I don't think John Terry and Frank Lampard are worrying about what boots I'm wearing.
No, definitely not.
No.
Mate, thank you very much for giving up your time. I really appreciate it. And best of luck next season if we are able to get back playing football. Best of luck. I hope everything goes well for you and get many successes with Shankill United.
Give me a shout. We'll try and organise a friendly show.
Oh, definitely. Mate, appreciate it.
Yes,
that's the end of the podcast for this week. The He Doesn't Want a Podcast, sponsored by Learners Ross Driving School and Drumbo Park Racecourse. We'll be back next week with another interview. Thank you.